All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is the 7th, and we are Wednesday. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show. We got the stream live for you, Patreon, YouTube, Discord. You know the deal. Post your comments and your questions in any platform you'd like. I'll catch them before the end of the session and address them, of course. But before we begin, just give us a check on the audio and the picture. We're looking at the SPY, the 5 minutes chart, 692.39. If you see everything fine, hear me fine, thumbs up, and we begin right away. Okay, thank you, everybody. And again, if you joined us in Discord, in Patreon lately, you can just click on the link on the YouTube link that you're watching right now on Patreon. You can watch it on YouTube and comment using your YouTube account if you'd like. But anyhow, let's begin right here with the SPY. We're going back and forth here. We're not really making a lot. The SPY right now is a touch positive. The big names, I mean, you look at Apple slightly to the downside, NVIDIA moving up a little bit, but it could be sold again as we see the seller showing up time and time again. 1, 2, 3, could be a fourth time here where the seller shows up. So you can't really bank that NVIDIA is going to hold the positive look that it has right now. So the SPY will be subject to the yo-yoing back and forth because of these names right here, but also have a little bit of volatility showing up today. So the VXX or the VIX is moving higher. And that's, I think, a lot of it is because of Bitcoin, because if you look at Bitcoin here, we're now flirting with that 90,000. And if we begin to head down to 90,000, it's going to be problematic because it's just going to be a closed case that Bitcoin is probably heading down, that doesn't have the energy in the buyers. So the sellers will show up aggressively, take it down to 83,000. If that is the case, that could be a catalyst for the SPY to go down along with Bitcoin. Now, if we look at the options market data, the SPY today, let's give it a refresh here so we can see everything fine. And we're looking at the 7th. What do we see here? The OI change, we see that the majority of the OI change is way out of the money with the exception of the 692. So this is why we traded around 692 and we're coming back to 692 because this one has high open interest that opened yesterday and high open interest to begin with. And on top of that, higher volume. Now, if we look at the puts, we have high open interest showing up 690 and below. So this is going to be tough for the market maker to exercise maximum pain because they're going to be sucked into one of these feedbacks. Either they go with the calls, and that's going to be all the way to 694, or they go with the puts, and that's going to be all the way to 690, and then this open interest could push them to go all the way down to 688. So we go back to the same conversation from yesterday's video. 693-ish, 694. That's the upper boundary, and then the lower boundary is going to be around 688. The best strategy that the market maker can make right now is going back and forth in this boundary right here, and then decide who's going to win this battle. If we see more volume of the puts showing up and adding throughout the session, then the market maker is going to assess that the risk is to the downside and they have to flush the tape below 690. But in the meantime, right now, I think they're going to try to go back and forth, just to try to frustrate the holders. But you see here, the SPY is reacting to probably some volatility showing up here. See the VIX moving up, so Bitcoin flushing down. Let's look at Bitcoin here just a little bit. So it could be a piece of news that came out that's causing a little bit of volatility. NVIDIA is now going down. Let's hear it. Here it is.
On here as we watch these shifting tectonic plates of geopolitics. The first one from the President of the United States, sharply critical now of the NATO Western military alliance. The President saying on social media a short time ago, Russia and China have zero fear of NATO without the United States, and I doubt NATO would be there for us if we really needed them. Everyone is lucky that I rebuilt our military in my first term and continue to do so. We will always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for us. The only nation...
Okay, so I mean, you heard what it's all about. It's a tweet. So just the algorithms reacting right here. I don't think that this is. I mean, he's shitting on NATO. I don't know what the hell he's doing, to be honest with you. So, but You see a little bit of reaction to the defense contractors. Let's see the Europeans. EUAD is the European ETF for defense, and that's continuing to move higher. I think at the end of the day, Europe is realizing that can't really depend on the United States in your defense. Got to do your own pack. So I'm still bullish in European defense, and I think that we'll see significantly more investment in that in the defense field in Europe. But going back to the conversation right here, the SPY. This was just an algorithmic trigger, so we're not going to make a big deal out of it. We go back to the conversation right here that if you're the market maker, you want to exercise maximum pain by going within a really tight range. That's going to be around 694 to 690 back and forth, and then decide, depending on the volume that shows up later, which side is going to win. Because we have OI change, that's the options that were opened yesterday and held overnight. And we see pretty decent numbers here in the puts. You see these numbers right here. And we have pretty decent numbers in the calls too. I think the puts have it because you see bigger numbers at 690, 89, and 88. And I think that after consolidating a little bit to frustrate the calls and the puts, I think the market maker is probably going to try to flush us down to 689, if not 688 by the end of this session. Now, let's look at some of the big guys. We talked about Apple. Let's zoom out here. Anything to see? We're getting pretty close to the target that we've been eyeing here, which is 260. I think if you have puts, you probably want to close them today because we'll find some support at the 260 number. So that's Apple right here. NVIDIA losing 690 again. So look, if you try over and over and over again and it becomes clear that this is a rejection and we have a seller showing up, then we have to break the boundaries to the downside here, which is about 185. So we have 195, it's called 193, 192, which we see the seller showing up back and forth session after session. It means that if we get rejected again, NVIDIA is going to head down to 185. If you break 185, now we're talking about the 50 days moving average, and that's going to initiate a trade all the way down to at least 180. So a trade that I discussed with you yesterday would be NVIDIA, and we're not going to go next week, but maybe a week after, and you go with 185, selling the 180, you're spending about 155 to enter the trade. To make 350, I mean, that's not a bad risk versus reward. And you have a 35, 34 chance of profitability, so this is a pretty good trade here. If you indeed anticipate that NVIDIA is getting rejected and it just has to seek lower support, as I think myself here, that's going to be the case. If we look at silver, how about silver? Because we bought some puts on silver, so if we look at the daily chart, it's beginning to lose momentum. It's beginning to consolidate here. And when you look at the negative divergence in the RSI and the SLV, you see the volume beginning to recede a little bit. So the momentum is frizzling out. And I think in time we'll be down here. If we plug in the 50 moving average, you can see a huge divergence. I don't think that we crash to the 50, but I think we try to close the gap between the current price and the 50. So 65 is a sweet spot if you're picking the strikes here against the SLF, or the SLV, excuse me. Anything in Bitcoin, we're watching. We'll see what happens. SNDK is an important name along with Micron, so I'm watching that. If I begin to see a reversal signal, I'm going to sell some calls, 350 perhaps, and begin to buy puts later on. So Micron, SNDK, those are all important here, because if they begin to go down, you can understand the momentum for the market year to date is all about the memory play and the equipment play, the AMAD, Lam Research, ASML. So if that begins to frizzle out, then we have a momentum problem in the market. Looking at the heat map, all in all, what do you see here? So the momentum trade is weakening a little bit today. We're seeing NVIDIA now taking a little bit of a lead, but NVIDIA is frizzling as we speak. And then you have the financials being sold here a little bit. The sector that remains pretty good, honestly, is healthcare. Every time it dips, the dips are bought quickly, and we see more migration toward healthcare because it is the only sector that's really working in the economy. So you're seeing here a lot of good names moving up. So we're going to stick with Big Pharma. Bristol Myers is probably going to be one of the biggest winners of the year because if you look at BMY, it's beginning to find some buyers here. We talked about this last year that it did nothing at all in 25, but now it's beginning to go up. And I think that what's going to happen here with the Bristol Myers, you could see the cup and handle right here, but I think we'll make another cup and handle, reach resistance at about, let's say, the upper 50s, then come back down, and then little by little march all the way to the highs again. So I'm positive on Bristol Myers for the year. In healthcare, the pharmaceutical names remain a top pick for me. Besides that, we're seeing a sell-off here across the board, folks, with very few exceptions. So you have Google, Amazon, Microsoft, NVIDIA. That's what's holding the S&P right now. So we're seeing a little bit of an opposite picture of Monday, Tuesday, which is the big caps are now participating a little bit. We'll see where we're going to close because if the big caps don't hold all the way to the end of the session, then that means that tomorrow's session is probably going to be deeply negative. So watch the video really carefully here. Okay, let's do the movers and then take your comments and your questions. So if we look at the daily movers here, let's see the movers to the downside. That's not good. Skyworks going down. Let's see here. Skyworks, it hasn't been doing pretty good, but that's not a good leading indicator. Maybe Apple is down because of the association here. MLCO, we continue to see, I think the 50 is being broken here in the 50 week. So weakness in China a little bit. Some of these meme names like Open Door down. Apollo rallied higher earlier this year, but reversing. All of the gains, Monday, Tuesday, it's gone now. Lamentum, a lot of you are asking, when do we add to the short? Not quite yet. I think we need to see loss of 350 before we begin to add and be sure that we have a top. Palladium, we sold 50% yesterday, so we're going down. We might sell the other 50 pretty soon, so keep an eye on the Maverick portfolio. WPM will be sold today. Alcoa will be sold today. ALB will be sold today, so keep an eye here, folks, because we're just booking profits from the 25 plays. But I see a lot of weakness here. A lot of names down 2-3%. So the majority of the market is actually getting hit pretty hard here with very few exceptions. So if we go to the movers to the upside, Biohaven, gotta stick with that name because every time it goes down, there is a buyer that shows up. And I think we're flirting with a breakout outside of the 50 moving average. I think in time we'll be able to close some gaps right here and it'll be okay at the end of the day. Intel heading higher, but I think that we're going to use the opportunity to exit my shares here. Bloom Energy, we have a short, so it's coming back up here closer to the range where we shorted. We don't like that, so we need to see a loss of the 50 quickly. Otherwise, if we close above the 50 days moving average, it's going to require you to buy call options as a hedge. That could be the 120 or the 130, whichever one you like. But you're going to need a hedge if we close above the 50. GameStop moving, not sure what the news is all about. HTHT, this is a name that I talked about yesterday. We'll book profit on that too today. VLO is still hot. OKLO, we have a short on it, but it's down a lot since we shorted, so we're okay with that. But Bloom Energy is a little bit closer to the price we're shorted, so we need to do a protection strategy. Talked about Bristol Myers, I talked about Eli Lilly, the big pharma names. Amgen doing pretty good. Look at that. Amgen's probably going to begin to break above these previous highs and make it to 350. So Amgen is another choice that you should be watching. But besides that, folks, not a lot of movers to the upside. It's just the big guys moving up like NVIDIA and Google, and that's keeping the tape afloat. Okta looking pretty good, to be honest with you. We talked about this yesterday when somebody asked about cybersecurity, but you can see it's all over the place. There's no theme here. Every name, except, of course, defense is doing okay, but this is the Venezuela theme. Speaking of, let's do CVX. I bet that we have a lot of questions about CVX. Is it time to buy right now that we closed the gap? I would say we're getting really close. If you're not in CVX already, getting really close to buy it. But you need to see that the sellers are done here the profit takers, and we're going to see dip bars showing up. So you need to see a green candle before you begin to buy here in CVX. With that being said, let's go back to the SPY 5 minutes chart and take your comments and your questions, see what you guys have. Good morning, everybody. China asks tech companies to halt orders of NVIDIA H200 chips. Yeah, but that's old news. We already know that. Whisper of the night. Hey, Mav, thinking of re-entering Rigetti short. Thoughts? I'm still short Rigetti, but if you want to enter a Rigetti short, you really need to break below these previous supports that we got. 1, 2, so you need to take that support by 21-ish before you begin to short again. Because I have 28 as my line, that if we trade above, I'm going to need a hedging strategy. I'm positive that Rigetti is not going to make it back to the highs. It's probably going to head down, but just in case. For now, I would say you can afford to wait before you enter a short once again in Rigetti. Hey Mav, last year I took neutral, Iron Condor, butterfly traders in the queues from your advice to good effect. Is now still a good time to do another round? Not right now, no. Because you're probably going to see higher volatility coming. So if you do an Iron Condor or Iron Butterflies, I think there's a good chance that you're going to break above or below the boundaries that you have. So I would not suggest that you do a neutral strategy this month. Okay, good morning, Mav. Is Exxon good options to enter right now? For Exxon, if we look at Exxon right here, dipping down a little bit, I would say that you're better off going with Chevron because that's where the energy is. But you need to see that green candle, that the dip buyers is showing up. Otherwise, the majority of the excitement, to be honest with you, as we begin to dissect what's going on with the Venezuela situation, who's going to win from all of this? Valero is the biggest winner. So if you want to chase momentum, strong momentum right now, it is Valero because it's the only company that's going to benefit for sure from what's going on in Venezuela. But also the refiners, if you look at MPC here, MPC is on the weaker side though, so I want to stick with the stronger names in refineries, and that's going to be Phillips or Valero. So if you think that Valero went way too high, Phillips could be a better choice right here. Otherwise, I would say go with Chevron. If you want to buy the big oil, go with Chevron. Once we see a green candle, you might get it today, right? If we close in the green today, that's going to be a confirmation that we have a bottom, and higher we go from this point on. Tiffany, morning, Mav. In terms of taking profits, so you're looking to take profit on MRK. No, MRK, the healthcare segment is still okay. So for Merck, we still keep it as it is. Yeah, it's going to face a little bit of resistance right now because you can see right here that we have a little bit of consolidation. That's going to cause resistance right here. So I guess if you want to use the money for another trade, you can book profits. Otherwise, I'm just going to sell covered calls. And that's going to be my way of locking in some profits, anticipating maybe a short-term pullback. But all in all, we're going to keep Merck as a core holding here. Because big pharma in the healthcare sector remains really, really attractive. You can see that in the monthly chart, Merck is beginning to form bullish momentum. So for my conversations with the managers, I think that we all agree that healthcare is the easiest buy situation in the market right now. There's spending in the economy, there's demand in the economy, there's tangible growth going on, and the valuations are not bad. So I think that more and more money is going to begin to flow into these big pharma and healthcare names. So this is why we're going to keep them for this year. But the metals, I think that trade is way too hot right now, and it's worthwhile to take some profits out of it. Hey Mav, Intel did not announce anything meaningful, and they're up big today. What am I missing? I don't think we have a piece of news that came out today. It could be an announcement that they did in CES. I'm not really sure. Here it is. Management stock jumps as management teases new gaming chips. Could be. I mean, they tease a lot of stuff and then they don't really produce. So that could be. the reason why we see Intel heading higher. But I think that's going to be at the expense, by the way, of AMD, right? So if Intel continues to go higher, that's going to come at the expense of AMD. Hey, Mav, is there a place to see options overnight change before the market opens? You can speculate, but this is why the market maker has the advantage, right? Because they know all of this, the OI change, they know all of this beforehand, and this is why you see the tape opening up to accommodate the change in open interest that we see overnight. So when you see the market gapping up or gapping down in the morning, it's because of the OI change. Can we see this data beforehand? No, we can't. You can speculate on it. You can try to do a lot of sophisticated stuff in looking at the options volume and the buy volume and try to figure it out. But unfortunately, we don't have that kind of intelligence yet. Maybe AI is going to solve it for us. But at the end of the day, looking at the OI change, that is updated once in the morning. Only the market maker has view of what's going on overnight. And this is why they have the advantage of moving before the session even begins. But that's okay. We know how to trade based on this data from day to day. We do that every day. We look at the OI change, the open interest, and the volume, and try to figure out the maximum pain and the range for trading. And there's a lot of benefit that we can do from this information in terms of trading day to day. And it could be happening as soon as today, where we see, for example, after the going back and forth, one of these sides, the calls or the puts, is going to win the volume battle and force the market maker to squeeze their way. Okay, DMRAV, so far I have Merck in the healthcare sector. Is it too late to add BMY, or would it be redundant? Well, look, if I have a lot of names, so if I was worried about redundancy, I would have done it already. But I have Merck, have Bristol Myers, I have Amgen, have J&J, so it's okay to pick a few because you don't want to have your eggs in one basket. Some of these companies, if they announce, for example, a failure of a trial or some bad news, they go down big. But if you have your eggs spread in 3 or 4 names, you avoid that kind of stuff. So I would say right now it's okay to add Bristol Myers incrementally, because if you look at the chart right now, it rallied a little bit in a short amount of time. So if you look at the hourly, the hour size is a little bit overbought. You don't want to buy when the hour size is overbought. You want to buy it when it is rising. So you might see a pullback here if you see it, and then we see, let's say, dip being bought within the body of this candle. You probably want to buy Bristol Myers. J&J already rallied too high, so would not really advise that you go with J&J. As far as V, could be, but honestly, AbbVie, one of the biggest winners from last year. So I think that Amgen, see the weekly chart here in AbbVie suggests that we have a bearish change. So I'd rather go with Amgen versus AbbVie. I think that Amgen has a better chance of moving higher. So Amgen, Bristol Myers, those are the two that I would recommend that you get into. Okay, hey Mav, hope all is well. What are your thoughts on SNDK? 400 naked calls, expiration date next week. That's kind of dangerous, though. I mean, if you do 400, what are you going to get for them? SNDK. I tried to do some calls, by the way, in the morning on SNDK. I couldn't find any volume, though. The spreads were way too wide. So if you do the 400 for next week, yeah, theoretically you could get a lot of money, but I mean, let's aim for 9, right? If you can get it for 9, I would say that's an okay trade, because I don't see that we're going to go to 400. We might get close to 400, but then it's going to be way too excessive, and it's going to pull back. So it's okay. It's okay right now, but make sure that you have a limit order, and don't take the bid here. You need to take a bigger. You need to have this credit as big as you can. So they suggest here that you can get it for 870. I would aim for 875. See if the order goes through. If it does, I would say yes, it's a good sell here, because that's going to require a jump of about, let's see, 400. That's going to require a jump of about another 17% in a matter of a week, so the odds are in your favor if you do that trade. Just identify a cut loss, right? So how do we identify a cut loss? If you sell right here, 400, when do we begin to talk about your risk is going to be if we're holding, for example, if we move to 400 plus, because you don't want to lose 300%, 200%. So if you go to 400 before the expiration date, it's not going to be worth it to hold it. So the earlier you cut it, if it goes above 400, the better. But I mean, you look at this right here, chances of profit 81%. So I would go with it. Okay, are you bullish for Visa for the first part of the year? The answer is, well, first part of the year and the second quarter probably going to be even better for Visa. So right now we have a really positive pattern of a falling wedge breakout. We're above the 50 weeks moving average. So I would say, yes, Visa's looking pretty good. And MasterCard is also looking pretty good. So Visa, MasterCard, that's okay if you want to own them for now. Let's see the dividend here. MasterCard is 0.6%. Visa pays a little bit higher. So up to you really, but the credit cards are okay for now. Okay, silver. What about silver? Let's talk about it. Isn't Robinhood and SoFi the same thing business-wise? Not really. I mean, SoFi is an actual bank. Robinhood is just a broker. So if you're looking at the SLV, silver, we talked about the bottoming and the negative divergence. So I anticipate that we see bigger pullbacks to come. But if you're looking at Robinhood versus SoFi, I would say that Robinhood depends on a lot of crypto trading to be okay. And right now, I am not sure. So we have this consolidation pattern right here with no decision made yet. And if we anticipate that we have a sell-off in the market, then Robinhood is not going to do pretty good. Same thing with SoFi, because SoFi is owned by a lot of retail investors. So I would say there's similarity between the two, but all in all, I would say that SoFi is more stable than Robinhood as a business. But in the case of a sell-off, as we anticipate in the first quarter, both of them will go down tremendously. So I would not recommend that you buy any of these names right now. And if you own them, you probably want to hedge. UAL puts. What are we talking about here? UAL puts, maybe you think that went a little bit too high here at the upper Bollinger Bands. Could be. But I'm not seeing a strong signal of a reversal here. So you're speculating. You're trying to call a top. I'm not sure that's a game you should be involved in. Unless you see something that I'm not seeing here in the unusual activities, for example. If you look, give it a check here. UAL. I'm not seeing anything today. So I would say don't do it. Go into Discord, Blackjack. Thank you for joining, and I hope that you're with us right now. You're watching the stream. Canceled. Maverick, there's an audio track playing over. Yeah, okay, so we fixed that, I think. Right? Did we fix that? I think we fixed it. There was an audio track, and then I fixed it. Let me know if that. I think it already went through because we deleted the video and put a new video in. Patreon. Nobody in Patreon. So let's go back here to YouTube. Folks, continue buying PLTR and Carvana like there was no tomorrow. Best investment opportunity when will this come to an end finally? So I mean, you look at Palantir. Palantir went down significantly from the top. So if you take a measurement here, it went down by about 30%. So If you're talking about when it's going to crash altogether, that's going to take a little bit of time. I think we're in the topping pattern right here, but Palantir is still showing growth. And until you have an earnings report, for example, that shows that this growth is slowing down, you're not going to begin to crash. You're only going to crash if you begin to show these growth slowing down. So that's going to take a little bit of time. Carvana is a different animal because Carvana's fundamentals are not that good to begin with. But there's still, I think the problem is there was a lot of shorts right here who did not cover and they continue to be squeezed. So Carvana, I think that 2026 will be the year to short Carvana again. We've done it back in 21. Do it again here in 26. But it's going to take a lot of patience. You don't want to short a name like Carvana at $400 right now because it's going to cost you if it goes up. Until you're confident and positive that this name is heading down. And I need to see another crack below 400 before I say that I'm ready to short it. Same thing for AppLovin, by the way. I want to short AppLovin, but stock's trading at 624, so it's a huge responsibility and a risk if I get my timing wrong. Let's give it a check here on the options volume, folks. So we see that the calls have volume all the way to 694, then it begins to slow down. And if we look at the puts, they're showing up volume all the way to 690. So I think what the market maker wants to do, because you see the maximum pain in the calls, right? They're all negative. And the maximum pain on the puts, they're all mostly negative for now. Who's going to win the battle of the volume, though? I think that it's going to be easier for the market maker, to be honest with you, to knock the 692 contract in the calls and go below 692. If they do that, they're going to get sucked into the puts feedback, but I think it's going to be safe for them to stop at 690, maybe close at 691. That would be the sweet spot if I'm the market maker. If I'm reading the tape correctly here, I think that the sweet spot would be about 691. And that's going to assure maximum pain as much as you can on both the calls and the puts. NVIDIA is trying to go above 190. We'll see if it does it or not. Bitcoin finding a little bit of recovery here. VIX is cooling off. But I think that in the second half, we're going to have a little bit more action, folks, because the macro data is going to begin to roll in. And traders need to participate and prepare for the jobs number coming out on Friday. Hey, Mav, are you adding to MOS today? Yes. I think that MOS, if we give it a look here, there we go. Daily chart, it's showing the saucer bottoming formation and have resistance at the 50, right? So the 50 is still resistance. But I think that we're consolidating in a bull flag pattern. Just a matter of time before we break above. And if we do, we're just going to raise higher. So I want to average down right now in my position and add to my Mosaic shares. Keep them coming, folks. Discord, YouTube, Patreon. Just post your comments, your questions, anywhere you'd like. Gonna address them all. I have AMD stock. Should I book or should I hedge it? AMD hasn't been acting pretty good, to be honest with you. And from what I'm hearing in Vegas here, that their presentation was not pretty good in CES. It was disappointing. So here, AMD, to be honest with you, like we talked about before, it just went higher because of the assumption that's going to compete with NVIDIA. My 2 cents, in time, it's going to come down and close the gap. So the question is, where did you buy it? Did you buy it here or did you buy it lower? If you bought it here, you're at most risk. If you bought it above 195. And I would say that you need a hedging strategy. You need to buy puts at 195 or 200. If you bought it before, let's say 130, 140, then you have plenty of room before you begin to panic and do something. And you don't need to begin to buy puts right now and assume the cost of these puts until it becomes clear, for example, in the weekly close, that you have a bearish engulfing candle. And right now it is an engulfing candle, but the week is still young. So if you get a confirmation of a bearish engulfing candle, then you need that hedging strategy, even if you bought AMD a little bit earlier. Avio, Italian stock here, so we got a split on it. Anyhow, we talked about this before, right? So look, all of these stocks right here in defense, Italian defense, and German defense, French defense, UK defense, all of these firms are just going to go back to the highs again. So if you're an AVIO, I think that we're going to head back to the highs. So you probably have access to Italian stocks. Here in the US, we don't. So the easiest way to do it is EUAD. That's going to give you exposure to some Italian defense contractors, French defense contractors. But the biggest spender, of course, by far, would be the German defense contractors. So either way, European defense is hot, hot, hot. You want to stick with it. Friday will also be the announcement of the court decision regarding the Trump tariffs. You're right. It could be as early as Friday, but it's not a deadline, right? So they can do it over the weekend. They can do it Monday. And you have to understand the Supreme Court right now is pretty much allied with Trump. So if there is an upset, I think they're going to telegraph that ahead of time. So I don't anticipate an announcement right away on Friday. But if they do cancel the tariffs, yeah, it's going to be a disaster because now we have to bring out all these billions of dollars and give refunds. So the market is not going to like that kind of volatility. I think the market right now said, okay, we dealt with the tariff so far, and I'm comfortable being at that stage without the volatility of the news and the fluctuation of tariff or no tariff. So if the Supreme Court decides to say that the tariff are not constitutional and the president needs to go to Congress before they get approved, yeah, that's going to be a reason for massive volatility in the market. How do you manage all your trades? Do you use Excel spreadsheets or something similar? Do you keep everything in your head? Believe it or not, I don't enter a lot of trades. So I used to put 15, 20, 25 trades at a time. But I realized that with the ETFization of the market, we have a lot of redundancies. So at any given time, on average, I have 5, 6, 7 trades. So I don't really need a spreadsheet to track them. I just have to look at my broker and just look at them. So I think you're going to find out that if you do a lot of trading and if you have positions, 15 positions, 20 positions at a time, you're doing it wrong because you have a lot of redundancy on assets that are probably going to move the same way up or down. Hey, Mav, today the lotto for the VXX Jan 16, 27, 30 call spread. Nah, I wouldn't do that, though, because the VIX moves up in the morning, then it cools off midday, then maybe moves up a little bit higher at the end of the day, but by that time, your options are going to expire, so I would not do that. I'd rather that you trade Keymaster, you trade the SPY instead of the VXX. Another announcement will be regarding volume of the QE by the Fed on Friday. So yeah, I mean, Friday's an important date. There's no doubt about it. You got jobs number, you got Supreme Court possibility for decision. You have an update from the Fed and QE. So we have, I think the Bank of Japan has an announcement. So Friday is going to be decisive. And I think that the market is going to begin to be a little bit more sensitive to that kind of news in the macro situation. Considering a potential correction at some point this year, low IV rank for Tesla. What do you think of buying Tesla 430 puts and you sell the 370 puts on it, then you sell the 730 call with the expiration date of December 26. 730. So we want to go a little bit far here. I don't think that Tesla trades the 730, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, I think that it's okay to sell the 730 for December because even if there is, let's say hypothetically, there's a move higher that gets us closer to 700, for whatever reason it is, you're going to have plenty of time before you face any risk on it. So I would do that. Now, in the short run, do we do the 430, 370? I think that's okay, but right now, if we look at the hour side, I think that Tesla may be a little bit oversold, so you need to see, and it has a gap here in the hourly, so I would say maybe Friday or tomorrow's session would be a good entry for the 430 and 375 puts. I would say that you got to wait a little bit more because it's trying to resolve some oversold conditions right now. So maybe tomorrow or Friday's session would be okay to short Tesla using those puts, because if you look at the weekly chart right here, we're losing momentum, right? So we're losing momentum in the MACD. Vortex indicator is about to give you confirmation. So I anticipate that Tesla is going to go down to the 380s when this correction is over. And that's going to make your trade profitable. But the entry is really important. If you want to perfect it as much as you can, I think you should be waiting for tomorrow's session or Friday. Okay, my Tesla 420, 410 for the 23rd, down 20%. Does that mean it's time to cut? 420, 410 for the 23rd. You shouldn't be down that much unless you bought it earlier here and then you had to wait for the pop to fade. I would rather that you go with the February expiration and you have the same spread. That's going to give you a little bit of a time because, I mean, we could again argue that we have a little bit of a falling wedge right here and oversold conditions that we could see Tesla moving up a little bit before it moves down. And by the time we get to the 23rd, if there is a pop higher or rebound higher, that's going to cause more decay. Now your option is going to be down 50%. And by the time Tesla begins to reverse and heads down, maybe we're getting closer to the expiration date that you got. So I'd rather that right now I'd book the loss, the 20%, and restructure the trade again for February's expiration. Good morning, Maverick. Not sure you covered MicroStrategy. I have short and wondering if I should add to my short on this pop due to Bitcoin going down. Yes, so there's a little bit of divergence where you see MicroStrategy up, but Bitcoin not trading so hot. So I would say let's see here if Bitcoin is going to lose 90,000. Right? If it does lose 90,000, I would say definitely short MicroStrategy add again. Because if we lose 90,000, folks, we're going to head down to the 80s, low 80s. And if you head down to the low 80s, that means it's going to head down to 70s. And that's the point where we see the assets of MicroStrategy going negative because they bought a lot of it at an average price of 78,000. Yeah, I would say you probably want to need to add to your short, but wait for that confirmation until we lose 90,000 in Bitcoin. Yeah, you're doing it pretty good because you're financing your puts by selling the calls at 7:30. So that's a professional way to do options trading. A lot of folks not experienced with selling naked calls, but if you are, I would say it is a safe way to do it. And if you get a correction in Tesla at 385 for 375, you're probably going to capture the majority of that credit anyways. So it is a good strategy. Hey, Mav, you have FCX 45 calls for Jan 16, hedged by selling the 53 calls yesterday. Should I just book profits? I was thinking to exercise your advice, please. So Jan 16, FCX 45. Look, I think that we have a pullback coming in the metals. And you have the jobs number coming out pretty soon. You have the tariff situation coming out pretty soon. Anything could spike the dollar. And I think that we have a top. This is a topping candle right here. So I would say that you're better off booking profits. Do not exercise right now because you can buy FCX again. I mean, 45 is a good price, by the way. But you also have good profits in your call options. So I'll book profits and maybe you're going to see a correction that takes us down to 48 and you buy it at 48. That's okay. But you don't want to buy it at 45 and then watch your gain here be lost or trimmed down. I'd rather book the profit, wait for the correction, then buy FCX again. What are we thinking about BE and such? So we talked about BE earlier in the session here. We talked about the 50. So if we close above the 50, you need a hedging strategy because we're getting really close to where we shorted Bloom Energy. And I don't want to see it, for example, trading at 140, 150, and then think about a hedging strategy. So if we close indeed above the 50 today, before the close, if it was still trading like this, I want to buy the 120 or the 130. And you can do a spread, by the way, because the spread will benefit you here in terms of exiting the current short if you need to, and also entering a new short at a better price. So just an example here. Let's say that we buy the 120 and then sell the 130. If Bloom Energy goes above 120 or above 130, let's say, by Jan 16, you exit the current short that you have at 120, and then you get to short of 130. So think about structuring the hedge this way. I don't find volume in 16th, but we might find volume for the 30th or the 23rd. So you can play with these strikes all you want, but the point is clear. Some people want to hedge, for example, at 115 and short again at 125. Either way, we're going to need a hedging strategy if we close above the 50 today. The SPY still consolidating here, but as I said before, we're probably going to have to move it down a little bit to maintain that maximum pain for the market maker. Hey Mav, looking forward to your outlook video for the year. I apologize, by the way, for the delay. The problem is it took a little bit longer than I expected, and if I want to work on it in the week, that's going to come at the expense of the daily videos, right? So we have to do daily videos and then work on the outlook a little bit until get it maybe Friday or Saturday for you guys. But anyways, I'm feeling a bit lost at sea at this moment. Since losing my job, hope that situation is going to be fixed pretty soon. I focused on accumulating as much cash as possible. Now I'm sitting heavy in cash, looking to deploy part of it in relatively safe core positions. Could you share some of your thoughts on key themes to watch in 26? I plan to re-enter the anti-dollar trade later this year. Well, look, I mean, you're in Sweden, right? So, Saab, defense contractors, that's going to be the easiest trade right now because that's where the demand is, and all of this situation with Greenland that we have is just going to add more and more energy and investment in these defense contractors, European defense contractors. So I think that's going to be the easiest trade right now, that you stick at home in your investment. And after you see a correction in the U.S. market, you're probably going to have better prices to enter and buy stocks at that point. But being in cash and collecting some yields is not a bad strategy for now if you're not sure where to go. And I would not recommend to open a lot of positions, to be honest with you right now, besides maybe some of the healthcare names, because those are safe in my opinion. But opening other positions, it's going to be a little bit tricky because defense contractors and healthcare, that's okay. But the rest, I'm not sure it's a good time to do that right now. I would wait at around, let's say, late February or March, and then begin to buy some stuff. I think that at that time we're going to have a decent correction in the market, and the valuation is going to be much better. Okay, what do you think the range for Alaska is? So today we got a piece of news, by the way, that they're buying a huge order of Boeing airplanes with the Hawaiian Airlines. So I'm going to stick with Alaska right here, but 49, if we trade below, I'm going to cut my loss. But right now, I'm keeping it as it is. I think that the news that we got today is actually a good piece of news, that they're going to increase the capacity that they have. Since someone asked, Lenny, I've been selling naked weekly Tesla calls for weeks and only had to roll once. Good for you. When it was close to 500. So it's been good so far. I'm still long Tesla, long term. I'm holding. Especially if you're a shareholder. Yeah, you need to sell these calls because if you look at Tesla, let's say that it gets a correction because the fundamentals are not pretty good. Let's just be honest about that. So let's say that Tesla gets a haircut. And now it's trading within the same range it's been since 21, right? So think about somebody who bought it in 21, been stuck in it 4 or 5 years doing nothing at all. The only way to make profits from a situation like this is if you've been selling covered calls along the way. It's sort of a dividend. When you have a stock trading at 400 plus, it's a no-brainer to sell these covered calls to make profits. So I would maintain the strategy that you got. If Tesla begins to have, let's say, loses 380, then we have to have a conversation about whether this position should be kept or not. But right now, I think that your strategy of selling covered calls is the best. At some point, you probably need to sell these covered calls and finance some puts. And you're not going to begin to panic until we go to 380. So maintain the same strategy. Let's go back here to the SPY. Beginning to pull back a little bit. So again, you have this consolidation that we talked about. And at some point, second half of the day, either going to have a break to the upside, doubt it, or you're going to see the market maker pushing us down to the 690s, low 690s, and maybe closing at 91 as the sweet spot. One step at a time, though, folks. NVIDIA here getting rejected again from 190. Bitcoin not looking pretty good so far. And the volatility is moving up. So if you look at the VIX here, give it a daily chart, look at the momentum. You see the bullish momentum beginning to show up in the VIX. So again, I anticipate the VIX is going to begin to move its way higher to 17. And Friday, we have an important day that could bring a lot of volatility back in the market. So a lot to look forward here, folks. But if we don't have any more questions, markets start to swoon. Wasn't yesterday afternoon IWM move obvious algo situation? Yeah, I mean, all of this accumulation right here, it's just chasing, and now you're reversing a lot of it. So I think that the IWM is getting really, really close. And I think it is. If you've been riding the IWM, it's time to sell right now because it's going to begin to reverse and move down. My 2 cents, we're probably going to have to make some moves by the end of this session. So good news is we're going to wrap up the stream right now, but we have a chat session coming out the closing hour. So folks, stick around with us. We're going to be back in the closing hour in the chat session. We'll give you updates on the situation. But right now, I hope that you got some benefit from this stream that we've done. And thank you for participating. Good luck with the rest of the day. Going to wrap it up and be back in the closing hour in Discord. Take care.